Hello and welcome. He's increasingly made a name for himself doing comedy, but his acting repertoire is extensive as one of the few Indian-born British-raised talents in Hollywood. This week on 101, meet the quick-witted actor and performer, Aasif Mandvi. It might have been harder for this young man to get a start in the world of acting had it not been for his parents' entrepreneurial spirit. Aasif Mandvi was just a baby when his parents left India to seek a better life in Bradford. But even that northern English setting was swapped for the sunnier climate of Florida when Mandvi turned 16. The aspiring young performer's family fully supported his desire to study theatre, and it paid off, as they were soon able to see their son break through the challenging barriers of Hollywood to become an actor and a comedian who's very much in demand. Aasif, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, you're not a lawyer, you're not a doctor, you're not an engineer. I mean, are you sure you're Indian?
I am all of those things. I've mastered every one of those professions.
And we've got to check, can you do the head nod as well, you know?
Yeah, I can do the head nod. I don't do it in mixed company. Right. No, I can do it. Come on, yaar, like, chalo.
This is your audition for Bollywood.
I know.
Now, you're one of the few South Asian actors who's broken through into Hollywood. When you look at the kind of effort it's taken to get to where you are, was it the kind of path you expected?
Was it the kind of path I expected? That's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know what I expected. I think I was too naive and not good at anything else in order to like really have any expectations. I just did it because I could. I don't think it wasn't easy, but I don't think I set myself up thinking that it was going to be.
We've done serious roles as well as comedy, and I know, of course, you've had a huge success with Jon Stewart's Daily Show, in which you are the Middle East correspondent and sort of comedic as well. And I wonder, the success of that, has that pushed you more towards comedy?
Probably, just because the business is like that, the business is that, now that people know me from the Daily Show, and it is the most visible thing I've probably ever done, then people think, oh, you're a comedian and you must do more comedy. But the reality is, all my career I've done both. I mean, I got to do The Last Airbender, that M. Night Shyamalan directed, which some people might have thought was a comedy, but it wasn't. And, I got to play a pretty uncomedic role in that.
That was tough, yeah, Commander Zhao.
So, I've gotten to go back and forth, which is, I think, important for me as an artist and as a performer, because it's, I get bored if I do comedy for too long.
I noticed your family name originally was Manviwala. Mm-hmm. Where did the Wala get dropped?
The Wala got dropped because no one, I was working in Hollywood and New York and stuff, and it was just too many letters for white people to remember. So people would, I really felt like white people would go cross-eyed when they saw my name, so I just decided that I would shorten it.
And you were born in Bombay, but you were only there a year as a child, as a baby, when your parents decided to move to Bradford in England.
Yes.
And I wonder, you spent up to your teenage years, 16 or so, in Bradford. How well you relate to British culture as a result?
There is a snotty little British English boy inside of me. I'm like a turducken. I have an Indian stuffed inside an English person, wrapped in an American, So I'm sort of these three things, and I think that's...
It's like the turkey, duck, and chicken.
Yeah, if you don't know what a turducken is, that's what it is. It's a turkey stuffed with a duck, stuffed with a chicken, something like that. Chicken, duck, turkey, something.
Of course, your family also is Bora Muslim, which is the sort of more non-conservative and more secular kind of sect in Islam as well, to some degree. Also quite a small community now.
Yeah.
And I wonder how important it was in your family to keep that element of your background alive.
Well, I was raised Daudi Bora, and it was definitely something that my parents, are embrace today, and part of the Daudi Bora community in Tampa, Florida, where they live. I didn't really know. I think when I was a child, I actually didn't know that there were other kinds of Muslims. Mm-hmm. And then when I discovered that, I was like, you mean you can go to the mosque in your regular clothes? What? That's crazy. I thought it was an abomination. And, you can wear a handkerchief on your head instead of a topi? What? So I think I discovered that as an adult and was quite shocked. But I can't say that I'm a close follower or anything like that, but it is part of my cultural heritage.
And how was the relationship with your family, with your parents in particular, in terms of, was it like first generation, second generation immigrant conflict, or were you on the same wavelength?
My parents actually, growing up, my parents were perhaps a lot more liberal and easygoing than a lot of South Asian and Middle Eastern, parents. I think that my mother actually was the one who encouraged me to try drama, to take drama in school as an elective, because she knew I enjoyed it and was really good. I don't think she ever thought it would become a profession, but I think that because my parents moved to the U.S. when I was 16, they started a whole new life, and so I think here were my parents in the middle of their lives, sort of starting a whole new life, moving to a whole nother country. So for me, I think I kind of had a few years there where they weren't paying as close attention to the classes I was taking in school as they might have if they had not been dealing with like a whole, new life themselves that they were creating. So I think I got away with taking a lot more drama and those kind of classes than they probably would have been happy with. But what happened because of that, I ended up getting a sort of a freshman incentive scholarship to the University of South Florida in theater, and so I kind of did that, and then it just went on and on.
A quick thought, while you were still in Bradford, I gather your father had a newspaper shop,
yes.
A newsagent as we call it in Britain.
Yes.
And I mean, certainly I know from my friends growing up, those whose parents also had local shops, and they were coerced into slave labor. Were you one of those who was like straight after school into the shop?
Oh, right. You know what? I don't think I did that as much as I probably should have. My dad, I just remember my dad standing behind, it was Bradford, it was cold. It got cold up there, and I just remember my dad standing behind the newspaper shop. I mean, behind the counter of the newsagents with like a scarf wrapped around his head and a heater in the corner, just like shivering, And but it was great. It was great. We used to go there and hang out in the shop, go behind, in the back there, and it was great. It wasn't. It was a great place to just get free candy and stare at the pornography.
Well, it was hopefully high enough up so you couldn't reach it.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of going to Tampa then, when you were 16, I gather it was something of a culture shock going from Britain to America for you.
Yeah, it was. I mean, in so many ways, the north of England is nothing like Florida. And there's a reason for that. And I think it's
certainly a lot warmer.
Yeah, in so many ways. But I came to this American high school, and it was just completely the language was different, the people were different, there were girls, and it was a very, very different world. Was
the immigrant experience different? I mean, very much in terms of how you were treated as an immigrant in Britain compared with in America?
Yeah. I think even now, I think if you're a South Asian or if you're from somewhere else and you live in England, it doesn't matter how long you've been there, you're never going to be British. The British have a very, very strong identity that is connected to their Britishness and empire and all, even going, I think, still today. And you just won't be British. You'll always be a foreigner. And America's very different. America has the other problem, I think, which is that they don't care where you're from. It becomes, your rich cultural heritage becomes irrelevant to the magnificence of America.
You have to pledge your allegiance.
You know what I mean? You pledge your allegiance to the flag, and then it doesn't matter if you're from India or Africa, or and it's like you've had a culture going back 10,000 years. Well, ignore all that. Just now you're an American. So there's a reverse kind of thing that happens here, I think.
While you were in Florida, you actually did some time at Disney World. Mm-hmm. You were working there as well.
Yeah.
What, were you one of the characters?
No, well, it was my first job out of school, actually. I did street improvisational comedy. And it was a great training ground just for comedy and just for improvisation. And I worked with some really funny people. And it was a great sort of gig to, do out of college. Because it really was, you sharpened your teeth down there, even though it was, you think it's very family friendly Disney, but the reality is doing street theater is one of the most dangerous things in the world, even if you're at Disney World.
Now, is it true you followed your girlfriend up to New York?
My then girlfriend, yes. She was moving to New York. I said, hey, I had my Actors Equity card in my pocket, and I thought, why not? I'll just go to New York and I'll see what happens.
And by this time, I presume your parents had given up hope that you were going to be the good Asian son and...
Right. I think at this point at this point they had seen me do theater and in college, and then drop out of college to go and pursue improvisational street theater at Disney World. I think at this point they were like, well, as long as they were expecting me, I think, just to keep going down the disappointment road, and just kind of become homeless. And my dad actually, I think, said to me, "You do whatever it is, just don't come to me asking me for money because I don't have any." So as long as I didn't do that, I think he was fine.
Now, your breakthrough came to some degree when you were you'd been working on off-Broadway, and you were developing your acting skills off-Broadway, and you created this acclaimed one-man show, Sakina's Restaurant, in 1998. It won an Obie Award, which I think was a turning point for you. How did things change after that?
Well, I think it was the first time that the phone started ringing for me, as it were, and people actually, had seen this show now, and we ran for 6 months off-Broadway. And then we did it around the country, and did it in London at the Bush Theatre in London, in Los Angeles, Toronto. So it was definitely a calling card, a way people suddenly associated me with this show that was done, and so it was great. And then of course the Smile Merchant saw Sakina's Restaurant, and based on that cast me in a movie called The Mystic Masseur. So. I got my first starring role in a film directly because of Sakina's Restaurant and the Smile Merchant coming to the opening night of the play and then giving me this role. So it was there were a lot of things that happened, and Sakina's also was for me a sort of an exploitation of that immigrant experience, a kind of sense of telling that story. And discovering that voice for the first time, to write about it and then perform it and all that stuff and bring it to an American audience.
Now, you've joked in interviews in the past that a lot of those early auditions, ironically, were for the role of doctor, which your mother had wanted you to be in the first place.
Yeah. So, I mean, listen, you're always playing... going up for doctors and cab drivers, and it started to get better. It started off as cab drivers, instead of deli owners, then it went to cab driver, and then it went to hot dog vendor, and then finally we got to doctor, and I was like, oh, I've really come up in the world now. And it was like,
what was the most challenging role you undertook?
The most challenging role, there've been different ones. The most challenging role I think that I ever actually have done in my career may have been on stage, not actually in movies or on television. I did a play where I played a character named, it was a play called Einstein's Gift, where I played the German chemist, the Nobel award-winning chemist named Friedrich Haber, who actually discovered, he not discovered nitrogen fixation, but he somehow harnessed nitrogen to create pesticide in the early 1900s. Anyway, it was this play about his relationship with Albert Einstein. And that, I think, was the most challenging role that I've ever done.
And you have the live audience there as well.
And you had a live audience there, yeah. It was a huge role. I had a sword fight. I had to dance. I had to get married and divorced twice. I had to age like 50 years. It was a huge, epic role on stage.
Now, you spend a lot of time, working in theatre, which is obviously very challenging. You went onto the small screen as well, and you took on a lot of issues, such as, the Guantanamo detainees and the role of immigrants. And again, that perspective you have, I guess, helped a lot. Now, I wonder, when it came to working in theatre and the other experiences you had related to that, how it helped prepare you for the rigours of Hollywood. Was there any kind of easy preparation?
I don't know if there's any easy preparation for the rigors of Hollywood. It is just a rigorous experience. But I think coming from the stage definitely helped me. I think, theater, my background is theater, and I was trained on the stage. And I just think that when you come from that place, it gives you a level of stamina. And, on stage you have to do something which you don't ever have to do on film and TV, which is that you have to recreate a performance every single night and find the newness and the integrity and authenticity of that performance and character every single night, which is a discipline that isn't replicated anywhere else. So that in itself, I think, is a tremendous learning experience and a discipline that you can carry into other things, but it just gives you a stamina, yeah.
With the experience you have and the success you've had, obviously on the big screen, is it hard for you to make the choice to go back into do any theatre, or is it still something you can consider?
Oh, I'd love to do theatre, yeah. It's my first love, It's always, the stage is always, it's where I sort of grew up. If ever, the problem becomes like, I can't afford to go do theater anymore. But the reality is, if there's the role and if it's the right opportunity and the timing is right, I would love to go back and be in front of an audience again. There's nothing like it in the world. There's nothing, because it's immediate and it's exhilarating in a way that nothing else. The Daily Show, we tape in front of a live studio audience, and that's kind of great, but theater is something that is just so specific in its experience that nothing else replicates it.
Now, 2006, you took on that Middle East correspondent role for The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. How much did that change, again, the kind of work that came your way and your sort of level of fame?
Well, it changed my level of fame entirely, because suddenly I went from complete obscurity to low-level celebrity. And so that was a huge jump.
Because you're yourself, of course. It's that kind of that mock role, but you are yourself in it, as opposed to a character in a movie.
You know what? I'm not actually.
I don't mean in terms of you obviously play a character.
Yeah.
But it's your name and it's your name.
It's my name. I always think of it as he's a character that has my name, but it's not me. He's much smarter than I am. He is, much well-traveled. He has a team of really smart, funny Jewish writers who write comedy for him every time he goes, anywhere he goes. He has a team of writers. So he's very, he's different than me, but he does have my name, and that gets confusing for people sometimes.
Now, how did your experience especially living in New York, change? Being a Muslim as well, and of course you have to explain to a lot of people being Indian and Muslim, are quite compatible.
Right.
I wonder how things changed after 9/11 for you here.
Well, it changed. I think it mostly changed inside. Like, something happened where I realized, like, I had a responsibility, not to make a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be, but there was some kind of voice that needed to be out there that wasn't being heard in the wake of 9/11, in the aftermath of 9/11. That something needed to be said. There's a great quote, I think by William Saroyan or someone like that, who said, if something's got to be done and something must be done, then somebody's got to do it. And so it's kind of that, It's like I felt like I needed to say something. And there was an interview I watched on TV soon after 9/11, and it sort of illustrated the ignorance and the kind of dialogue that was going on in America, where some government official was talking to a reporter and talking about Eid, the Muslim Eid, and he said, Eid is spelled E-I-D, and if you spell it backwards, it spells D-I-E, die. So how can these people be trusted? And I thought to myself, wow, something needs to be done. Like, someone needs to come out and say something, and so that, I just remember that moment and thinking like, wow, like somebody, we need to start mobilizing or speaking or acting or creating art or creating something to put out there that counters all of the ignorance and stereotyping and reductive thinking.
Who have been your mentors in life, Aasif?
Who have been my mentors? The strange thing about growing up as a brown kid in a white world, essentially, was that I didn't really see people that looked like me. I didn't see people that sort of, when I was a kid, there were obviously great actors, great British actors, great Hollywood actors that I would sort of, look at and say, wow, I'd love to be like that. But then as I got older, I didn't really see anyone who reflected what it was that who I wanted to be. So I sort of had to make it up, this idea of, I have personal mentors in my life, but outside in the world, I felt like I had to create an example of a role model in myself somehow. So I probably didn't have those kind of mentors.
Now, you've got a great list. You've got a long list of movies and shows you've done, from Spider-Man 2 to Sex and the City and The Sopranos. And I wonder now, is with the experience you have and the diversity you've experienced, what would be a worthy challenge for you?
Oh, what would be a worthy challenge? There's always something comes along. I read a play recently written by a friend of mine who is with a lead Muslim character that's very conflicted and very dealing with a lot of his own self-hatred about himself and his own personal immigrant identity and all that. It's a role that anybody, I think, from my background would kill to play. And but there are always stuff like that coming along. There's always something that you read, and it's just whatever inspires me, really. It's just like if I read something or if I see something, it's like, oh, that is an inspiring character or performance or something,
With the pace your life is at, with the success level you have now, do you have time to switch off, or is it unthinkable?
Oh, sometimes some days are crazier than others. My life is not. I'm not flying to Milan every weekend.
To get your hair done.
Right, exactly. I'm not Kim Kardashian. You know what I mean? But I'm close. So I have lots of time when I'm just sitting around the apartment, when I'm literally like going, nobody's emailed me in 15 minutes. What's going on? So yeah, it ebbs and flows. Like there are times when life gets crazy and you get overwhelmed, and then there are other times when you're literally like, my mother complains I don't call her enough, and when I do call her, it means nothing's going on, and so then she always gets the complaints about like, nothing's happening, no one's, I'm bored, but when I don't call her, she's like, oh, but it's because I'm busy, so I don't know.
Of course, it's really difficult with someone who's young and still has so much of the career to go. But I always wonder, if it's possible to look ahead, if you could have a legacy, or if you could be remembered a certain way, what would you like it?
A legacy? My goodness. I'm very young. I have a great deal of life ahead of me still. This is like you're talking to an old man. I would like to be remembered as the man who single-handedly jumped over the Atlantic
I hope
on
you're
a
training.
pogo stick.
Have you started training?
I've started training. I have a pogo stick. I'm up to 4 feet.
I'm going to catch up with you when you complete the journey.
Yeah.
Aasif,
I'll
thank you
jump
very
right
much.
from New York to London. Boom.
Back to Bradford.
Back to Bradford. Right back to Bradford.
Aasif, good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.